What's up, guys? Dustin here with Two Brothers Comics, and I've got Nick with me, and today we're going to be kicking off our new series for new collectors. Hopefully, maybe some of the veterans out there can get a little something out of this too. Alright guys, so welcome back to the channel. As we said in the intro, today we are kicking off something that is very, very special and near and dear to us. We've been talking about this for a long time, and we're so excited about putting this out. Nick, aren't we excited?
Man, I couldn't be more excited.
We are so pumped about this. This is, like I said, it's been something that, from our personal experiences, first starting out when we were starting out collecting, we just thought about this, and we were like, if we're doing this YouTube channel, I think this is something that we should do to maybe help out and prevent someone else from having to go through some of the stuff we did when we started out.
Yeah, because when we first started, it was a lot of self-taught or, asking questions. And, like we've discussed, some of our experiences with local comic shops, aren't always the friendliest. So we thought if we could use, this platform and kind of show what we've done and what we've learned and share that knowledge with you guys, that's what we wanted to do. And this has kind of been a passion project for us and something we've been working on for a while. So.
Yeah, because I mean, when we first started out, we weren't even aware how big this community was on YouTube with the comic book community. So, if you're just getting into collecting and you have already found the comic book community, you're already far and heads and shoulders further than we were when we started. So, let's dive into this.
All right.
So, you have decided that comic books are something you're interested in. You don't know where to start yet, but you know it's something you're interested in. First thing I would say, and Nick, I don't know, you can tell me if you agree or not, but as far as knowing what direction to go to, is what is the first thing that sparked your interest?
Yep.
What was it when you saw it? You said, maybe I should look and see it. Look at that comic book, or maybe I should look and see, if there is a comic book for that, or maybe it's like Nick, where the material that was in front of him derived from a comic book. So, I think that's the first place you need to start is what was it that grabbed your attention, that pointed you in the direction of comic books to start with?
Yeah, and it could be anything. It could be the movies. It could be a TV show. It could be from back in the days of the 90s stuff, because there are a lot of things from the 90s that were turned into comic books. Mortal Kombat being one of those things. Power Rangers being another. Dragon Ball Z being one. A lot of those things, there are things built around within comic books. I mean, Transformers back in the 70s and 80s. Star Wars. There's a lot of things to really pique your interest, where you could pick up and start on. So the first thing you need to do is really decide, what got or has you interested, and then start searching for those comic related stories.
And all those are really, really good topics to definitely dive into, as far as pursuing where you want to go with your comic book collection and what direction you want to go. The biggest question that I know that we're asked all the time, those of us who have been collecting for a while and are a little bit more in the know, are where should I start? Where do I start collecting? And really that is up to you. And there's a few things, a few talking points that we're going to talk about today that I hope can, and I know Nick hopes will point you guys in the direction of being able to find your own way. One being, I know for me and Nick both, there was things from our childhood that really got us, and grabbed us and pulled us into comics. Me specifically, I know Nick, we've talked about it endless times. You jumped in with the Infinity series, the movies, they pulled you in. For me, it was all nostalgia. It was all things that pulled me in from my childhood. And just a few examples here. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Growing up in the 90s, this was huge. Jurassic Park, huge in the 90s when I was growing up. the X-Men cartoons from the 90s. Really, after I started collecting Power Rangers, I decided, there's got to be other stuff that I would
Yep.
be interested in too. And I thought about the same things that we're talking about. What things did I enjoy growing up as a kid that I could see if there's a comic book directed towards that?
So, and that's exactly what the first thing you need to do. What interests you, and there's going to be a comic book about that. So go to your local comic shop,
Absolutely.
ask around, check online if you can't find it at the local comic shop. It doesn't matter if you're into Harleys, if you're into the MCU movies, if you're into Dragon Ball Z, if you're into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles. It doesn't matter. Pick something you're interested in. Pick something that you enjoy a story on, and go into that. And that's always a really good first segue into comic collecting, because it's something you know, it's something you're comfortable with.
I think another great way to figure out which direction you want to go is do you have other hobbies? Is there other things you already do that you enjoy?
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I ride Harley Davidsons. I love Harleys. And we talk about movies and TV shows. Sons of Anarchy was a huge, big hit TV show. It was something I really enjoyed and loved. When I found out there was a comic book for it, and there was actually 2 series, I was so excited about that. I went out and you know how long it was. I was searching all the time trying to find these books.
Yep.
So being able to take one hobby that I've already been in for a long time, and I've already put a lot into, and be able to pull that into a new hobby, that's something really cool. So that's something else you can look at, because there's such a broad and huge spectrum for comic books. I mean, it's insane.
All right. So find what you like, search it out in a comic form. So what's the next step, Dustin?
I would say decide. Everybody knows when they think comic books, everybody thinks superheroes. Maybe you're into superheroes, maybe you're not.
Yep.
Just know that there are other options out there besides just superhero books. There's horror books, there is romance books, there's comedy books, there's cartoon books. So, it doesn't have to necessarily just be superheroes. I know a lot of people think comic books, well, I'm not really into superheroes. That doesn't matter.
Yep.
Nick, how many superhero comic books are on your pull list every week?
Not many. I mean, 90% of my pull list is going to be independent stories, and all of those are outside of the big two, which we call generally Marvel or DC, and everybody's familiar with those two. There's a whole world, and oftentimes a better world of comics outside of those two. So if you're looking for a great book, or if you enjoy graphic novels, in different forms, independent comic books from Image, IDW, Boom Studios, that's a great place to come in and pick up and maybe get into some of the comic books. If you're not interested in Marvel, DC, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, those type books. So there's a whole world out there that you really don't see whenever people discuss comic books in the mainstream media and things like that. So a great point there, Dustin. Definitely check out the independent titles. We were on the big two for a while, and then we've recently, in the last year or so, really started diving deep into these independent comic books. And we've quickly turned into, 90% of what we read on a daily basis is going to be...
We are indie fanboys.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's a good way to get, your wife, your kids into it too.
Absolutely. And that kind of also opens up to the next talking point that I had, which was, are you looking for something that is just like, a short run of one character, mini series, or are you looking for something that is a progressive storyline, something that you're going to be, having something you're going to be able to invest into this book, emotionally and mentally, and getting to know these characters over a long period of time. That's something else that you have to look at too. Are you looking for something that's just a one book by itself, nothing else tied to it?
Yep.
Or you want to read something that, maybe it's just a 4-issue series, or you want to look at something that's got, 25, 30, 40 issues into it. And depending on where you start, You know, I always thought a miniseries was a great way to get to know a character.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. The miniseries are wonderful because you don't have to have a ton of background knowledge into them. And then again, also with the independent titles, you can go and generally pick up a lot of those independent titles and jump right into those. And you don't have to have 70 years worth of knowledge on Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, etc. So that's one thing we've really enjoyed, because obviously we weren't reading comics in the 60s. We weren't reading comics in the 70s. So for us, it was, we got to experience that world building and character building and things like that within these new independent titles. So definitely, if you're kind of putting toes in the water, go check out some independent titles.
Absolutely. And I think the last thing that I would say is, don't be afraid to just pick something up and give it a try.
Yep.
Because that has been, I personally can tell you, I've missed out so many times and have hated myself for it, because I looked at something and I was like, that's not me. That's not something that I think I would even be interested in. I know comic books, when you're first getting into it, you're thinking $4, $5 an issue, but if you're not pulling 10, 12, 15 books a week, if you're just going in and looking and trying to grab a couple, grab maybe one or two that you are going to like, that you really think you might have interest in, and maybe grab one book that you're not real sure about, but maybe, because there's been so many titles that I've missed out on and had to go back and pay a lot more later on for, but just because I didn't give it a try whenever I had it in front of me already. So I would definitely say, don't be afraid to try something that may be a little out of your wheelhouse, because you really never know with comic books.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to just go in and pick up something randomly anyways. Go in and pick up a Batman off the shelf if you love Batman. Go in and pick up a Spider-Man if you really love Spider-Man. Just because it may be on issue, 800, 900, whatever, they're constantly recycling these stories and creating new story arcs. So, at the end of the day, going and just picking up books and filling out your interest, that's where it's going to begin. That's where the love's going to start for you. So just in general, at the bottom line, don't be afraid to go in and just buy something. And I think for me, that's kind of, I kept going to comic shops, or I'd go to some of the local chain stores that maybe sold back issues or current issues of comics. I'd filter around, pick through, but I wouldn't really pick anything up because I didn't know, where to begin or what story was this or whatever. Just go in and pick some stuff up and see if you like it.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Please ask questions. That's something that definitely can't preach enough, is before you just dive in head first and just start grabbing books and buying old back issues, find someone you can trust that already has the knowledge, that has your interest in mind, and ask them questions. Ask them if this is the series you're looking for, if this is the right volume you're looking for. Are you paying too much for this book? That's going to be something that's really going to help you along the way, is having a big brother figure there that can really kind of help guide you and keep you from really, because honestly, it's real easy to get taken advantage of. It's easy to get out there and think you're buying the title that you've been reading for a month, and you go buy 3 or 4 books and you come home and it's a whole different series from a different volume from 10 years earlier. So this is all stuff that I know has happened to me. It's happened to Nick. So that's something, if you can find someone like that to kind of help, basically kind of mentor you through the beginnings, to keep you from wasting some time and money, that's going to be a real helpful thing for you too, I think.
All right, guys, so to wrap everything up, basically jump into it, right? Go after some of your hobbies, go after some of your interests. They've made a comic book about it, I promise you. Don't be afraid to dive in. Don't be afraid to ask questions, all right? So Dustin, what can they expect kind of coming up out of the series? What the next topic's going to be, how often, things of that nature.
Yeah, so basically we're going to be taking you guys from deciding what you want all the way through where to buy it, how to take it home, how to store it, and all through the process of really getting into collecting. So the next video is going to be all revolving around where to go buy these books. Now you've decided what your interests are. You decided what kind of books you want to go after. Now we're going to talk about your different options as far as where to buy the books. So be looking for that.
All right.
Also, in the description here on every one of these videos, we're going to have a comics terminology PDF file that you can download. That was another thing me and Nick struggled with a lot, was there was a lot of terminology that people used in this community that we had no idea what they were talking about. So, you might find it helpful, you might not, but it will be in a PDF in the description there for you guys to be able to open up and download and keep with you. Hopefully you'll find some interest in that. For those of you that have been in this for a long time, if you see anything on there that, maybe could be defined a little better, or if you have any ideas for things we should add, please drop that in the comments for us, because we definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, so we challenge all the veteran collectors out there. Help us out with this series. Drop your knowledge you have down in the description, because I know a lot of times when I'm watching these videos, I'll go read the descriptions and see what other people's opinions are. We want that interaction. We want you veteran collectors to help us bring in new folks to the community, right? That's one of the core things we found, created this channel on, was the premise of helping grow this community. So we appreciate your support, and we appreciate you helping us grow that community with us, all right? So don't forget to like, comment, and share. Hit the notification bell. We appreciate you doing that. And as always,
Collect your way.